Okay, we are live, Mr. Warden.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. It's March 11th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We have all members in attendance with the exception of Councillor Robinson. I know she's having some internet issues, and I will advise when she joins.
Very good. This is the first time that we're going to be doing our land acknowledgement, so I will begin, and hopefully I can get the pronunciation right. I'm doing my best here. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabeg Six Nations of the Grand River, Haudenosaunee, and Wyandot and Wyandot peoples, on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all as treaty people live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all of its diverse peoples. And my apologies, I know that I've got some of the pronunciation not absolutely correct, but I promise to do better in the future. Item number 4, is there any, I should also, I think at this point, before I go to declaration of interest, I should acknowledge that today is the 1-year anniversary of the declaration of a pandemic in Canada. And, you know, we should take some pause and take some time to reflect. Who would have known that 1 year later, we would be actually putting injections into people's arms? I mean, I think that's huge. Well, one person knew. I must give credit to Dr. Era, who did say in 1 year's time, he felt that we might have the possibility of a vaccine. But nevertheless, a year later, we are vaccinating people, and that's to take pause, but I think also to acknowledge that it's been, you know, a tough year for many people, and we are also looking forward to getting back to normal, whatever that means. I don't think there's going to be a normal as we knew it before. Some good things have come from the pandemic, but I want to also acknowledge that there are a lot of people who have struggled, and many with mental health challenges, and we just don't know its full impact as yet, particularly with our children. So I think it's important that we take a moment to just acknowledge this anniversary. Turning next to item number 4, a declaration of interest. Is there anyone with a declaration of interest? Seeing none, we will proceed. Now I'll just say that you can certainly declare if it comes up during the course of the meeting, you recognize it. I've had that come up where at the beginning I didn't think, and then I got thinking more, and in the course of the meeting I thought, yeah, I should probably declare at that time. Okay.
Mr. Warden, I
Yes.
just will note that Councillor Robinson has joined us.
Oh, excellent. Hello, Councillor Robinson. You're on my second screen. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning to everyone.
Okay, we're just on to, we just finished declaration of interest, Councillor Robinson, and we're now moving to item 5, adoption of the minutes of February 25th, 2021 of County Council and the Committee of the Whole. That is moved by Councillor Patterson and seconded by Councillor Keaveney. Do we have any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, then I will call the question. Anyone opposed, please raise your hand. See no one, so I'm going to say that that is indeed carried. Turning next to good news and celebrations, and I would invite anyone, in addition to good news and celebration, if you feel that you might like to reflect on the past year, given today's acknowledgement of the anniversary of the pandemic, I invite you to do so as well. So I'm looking for hands. Councillor Plumpus, you are first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and good morning, everyone. It is fitting that this is the first anniversary, let's hope it's the last as well, of this declaring this pandemic in Canada. And our good news is we're very excited to be in a position to begin vaccinating our over 80 population next Tuesday and Wednesday through with the Pfizer vaccine through a bit of a pop-up facility in our arena and community hall side. It's been quite an exercise with staff volunteering to make phone calls on behalf of the local physicians who have rostered these patients in both the Thornbury and Bumstead clinics. And so we expect to see this roll out Tuesday and Wednesday next week. So it's very appropriate that I share this good news with everyone this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clumpus. Next on the list is Deputy Warden McQueen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, and I just want to take this opportunity to sort of congratulate the Grey Bruce Health Service and the announcement of the new hospital for Markdale. Yourself, Mr. Warden, you were through Zoom. I appreciate and thank you for that, along with the Premier and the Minister of Health and Gary Sims from the Grey Bruce Health Services, along with myself, brought greetings that day and thanked very much finally we're moving forward with that hospital. It's been a long time, maybe over 25 years, along with our neighboring municipalities who also support it, and the county of Grey. And again, I just want to thank everyone for their hard work. And again, we're moving forward. I was up to the office yesterday, and the hi-ho and the dozers and all that stuff are moving around, and it's great to see that finally the hospital is moving forward. And again, thank you, Mr. Warden, for your part.
You're very welcome. Next, Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to, as chair of the Long-Term Care Committee, I just wanted to extend, our sincere appreciation to the efforts of our long-term care staff. They were on top of this pandemic very early through their IPAC mechanisms, and I can report that throughout an entire year of a pandemic, they've had one positive case and one false positive. In light of some of the horror stories that we're hearing throughout the province in long-term care, our staff have done an exceptional job. And to all the other departments, within our own municipalities and at the county that have helped out in any way, and to the Grey Bruce Health Unit, Grey Bruce, its residents have handled this situation remarkably, and I just want to extend our sincere appreciation to everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Boddy, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. Owen Sound has declared itself as the work from home capital of Canada. We saw so many people coming up during COVID from the big city that are reimagining their quality of life. And we know that they're coming to all of Grey or Grey and Bruce. And we went out to BC Hughes, or Chris Hughes, that some of you will know. He did the Spruce the Bruce a few years ago, helped us with our Are You Most campaign a few years ago, came up with this whole concept. Very brilliant marketer. And he's also working on changing the rebranding downtown Owen Sound into the River District, and doing a really nice job. I've done a couple of TV interviews and approximately 8 radio station interviews. I've had feedback from Ottawa, from Vancouver, from all over the place. This really exceeded our expectations, getting us onto that big city map and getting attention, and it's worked very well. A lot of social media, Facebook, Twitter hits, aiming for the 25 to 45-year-old working person that's working from home, that can bring their income that they earn somewhere else and bring it up here and spend it. And the multiplier effect for every dollar that comes in, there's probably $2.50 to $3 that's circulating through the community. So it's really good. It's had great impact, and we're really proud of our staff and Chris Hughes for putting that together. So looking forward to the outcome. Thanks.
That's terrific news to hear, Councillor Boddy. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Desai, you are next.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Southeast Grey Community Health Centre, and it's headquartered in Markdale, and they just ran their vaccination clinic for their rostered patients aged 80 and over this past weekend. It went off without a hitch. I've heard a lot of positive comments on it as well, and so I just wanted to give a shout out to the staff at the Southeast Area Community Health Center. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Desai. And I think the people of your community in general, I would say, have lots to celebrate that news of the hospital and with the success around the clinic. Bravo. Next on my list is Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you. And certainly as we acknowledge the time frame that the pandemic has been in Canada, I certainly would like to extend an appreciation for all the due diligence that our Grey County citizens and business owners have demonstrated by following the federal, provincial, and Grey Bruce public health protocols. Certainly their due diligence and attention to those protocols have certainly identified the lower numbers in relation to other areas. So that really is something to just pay attention to. Certainly a heartfelt acknowledgement to Dr. Era and his staff, our frontline, our workers, and the leadership that was identified through former Warden McQueen, certainly yourself, Warden Hicks, and CAO Johnston and staff, and our lower tier municipal staff. Certainly the phrase is not overused. We are all in this together, and I think by working together collaboratively, we are ahead. I truly believe that, and I would just encourage everyone to continue to follow the protocols. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson. Next on my list is Councillor Potter.
Yes, thank you, Warden. I just thought we should note condolences for past Warden Duncan McKinley, and to our own staff member Jennifer Cornell on the passing of Elma McKinley. Elma was Duncan's mother and Jennifer's grandmother, and we're very sad that she's gone. I used to call her the Bard of Ravenna because when I ran the newspaper, she was always bringing me things and telling me what was going on in the Ravenna area. So very sad that she's gone. She was predeceased by her husband, Harvey. They were married for 55 years. So it's very sad to note that she is no longer with us.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Next, I have Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. Good morning, everyone. Yesterday at the P&H Center, our hockey hub, 600 plus year olds went through the vaccination center. No glitches, and a lot of happy, relieved people and families. And we're looking forward to when the vaccine is available to ramp up to start putting 4,000 to 4,500 people through there and seeing an end to this. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Patterson. And I would say I did watch the event last night hosted at the P&H Center by Bruce Power. They did a terrific job, lots of good information shared with the public. And Dr. Era did a fantastic job as usual. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty slick production. I think that's it for councillors. And next I'll turn to Savannah.
Thank you so much, Warden. Good morning, Council. We have Jacinda Rudolph here with us this morning, who is just coming off the job fair yesterday. So I was hoping she could take a moment to bring you an update on how everything went.
Morning, Council. So yesterday we had our very first Grey and Bruce virtual job fair. Overall, the event was a success. A huge congratulations to our committee partners, and a really special shout out goes out to our longtime partners, YMCA Employment Services, and our new job fair partners, Bruce County Economic Development. They worked alongside Grey County Economic Development and Communications departments the entire time to make sure this virtual event was well organized and ran smoothly. So as a virtual event, there were a couple little hiccups, but you know, we're good to go after a short while. We had 60% of the registrants participate the day of, which for a virtual event is actually quite a high turnout, considering everyone's pretty zoomed out or tired of the virtual events. So 125 employers signed up, which was our max for the platform. We had 50 employers on a wait list. 700 job seekers participated on the day of. And it's worth noting that employers and job seekers are actually able to connect before the live event starts. So it makes those connections higher overall. So we had 2,000 completed chats between employers and job seekers. And of those 2,000, 884 candidates that participated were sent through the pipeline or sent through to an interview. So that's 44% pipeline or interview, which is really something that we never know as a job fair organized when we do it in person. A lot of the employers were quite happy with the virtual event as they are located kind of further away from larger centers. And yet they're still able to take advantage to connect with candidates when they're a little more remote. This event also got a lot of traction within the area and surrounding urban centers, and employers had the ability to reach out to 1,200 job seekers to promote their business and find the workforce. So there was a high level of work leading up to the event, as there is a big learning curve, but not just for our planning committee, but for employers and job seekers. A virtual platform does allow us to gain a better evaluation of the connections between both parties, unlike an in-person job fair. So overall, I think it was a pretty successful event for our very first virtual Gray and Bruce virtual job fair. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for that, Jacinda, and congratulations to you and Savannah and everyone on the team. That is incredible news. Those stats are very, very impressive, and you reach those stats with 50 employers on a wait list. That's pretty incredible. Anyways, thank you for that. I really appreciate hearing that news, as I'm sure the rest of council does as well. Kim, I believe that you are next.
Okay. As far as good news and celebrations this morning, I can talk about this here then. Some of you may have noted that South Bruce Peninsula put a news release out late last week. They approached Grey County about the feasibility of extending the Grey transit route from Wyerton to Sauble Beach from May to September. And their Sauble Beach Chamber of Commerce, the business community there, I think recognized an opportunity and a need to try and better connect labor force with the businesses in Sauble Beach. They also, of course, have a longstanding parking issues there and thought that there may be some benefit to allowing people to park a little further away and take the transit route. So South Bruce Peninsula is funding all of this, but I think it's a really positive story for the area. That particular route begins in Owen Sound, goes up through Highway 6 to Wyerton, and then will continue on to Sauble Beach. And so this will be the first year starting the 21st of May, and I think we're all very hopeful that it turns out to be a really positive thing for everyone.
That is fantastic news indeed. It's interesting to watch the dream, come to life, and it's being built, it's happening. It's very, very cool to see. Thank you for that. Okay, I do not see any other hands for now. Oh, I apologize, Councillor Desai, is your hand still up or?
Yes, sorry, I had a couple other things that I missed out on, if I may, Mr. Ward.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Thank you very much. On March 8th, the world celebrated International Women's Day. Our very own Ashley Whedon participated in a panel, and one of the things that she mentioned I found very hard hitting. And it's not an exact quote because I can't remember the exact quote, of course, but it was something along the lines of, we're tired of platitudes. We want action. And I thought it's important because I do believe, and I mentioned this a couple of meetings ago as well, that in trying to do good things, we sometimes wrap ourselves up in giving platitudes and forgetting about the action that comes after. Also, the hashtag for this year's International Women's Day was Choose to Challenge, which brings me to the next piece of celebration. Before we meet next time on March 25th, we will have passed the 131st birthday of Agnes MacPhail, born locally and raised in Grey Highlands, Councillor Mill. And it's the reason I bring it up in the context of Choose to Challenge is because I truly believe that is how Agnes MacPhail lived her life. If hashtags were a thing back then, that would have been her hashtag. And it's especially significant this year, Mr. Warden, because it's also the 100th anniversary of her being elected for the very first time and becoming the first female member of Parliament in Canada. And I just thought I'd be remiss if I didn't bring those two things up, Mr. Warden. And so thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
Thank you very much for raising that. It's important that we acknowledge those things. Kim, I see you waving your hand.
Just one more, if I may. Today is also the 100th birthday of the Chichiman. And I found that remarkable that's been a service that's been running for 100 years and
That's
really
right.
the start of our tourism, really. So thank you.
Yes. Wow, 100 years. I wouldn't have thought 100 years for the Chichiman. That's incredible. Okay, I see no more hands. Lots happening, by the way. Lots of good news happening in Grey County. I see no more hands. So with that said, I'm going to turn to the last item in our agenda for this meeting, which is adjournment. It has been moved by Councillor O'Leary and seconded by Councillor Plumpus. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much for that. We'll take a second to switch over to our next set of our next package for Committee of the Whole. And I think I've got mine up here. Okay, so I will call this meeting to order. This is the Committee of the Whole meeting, March 11th, 2011. Is there any declaration of interest from anyone? Let me flip through my screens here. I see no hands. So once again, if one does arise in the course of the meeting, I would ask you to declare it at that time. Item number 3 is business arising from the minutes. And I guess just as you see in the package, the notice of motion that was raised by Councillor Potter has been deferred to March 25th. Anything to add to that, Councillor Potter?
No, sir. We just had a couple of items that we wanted to clarify before we put it forward.
Very good, sir. Okay, so with that said, we're going to turn to our delegations. We are a little bit early, Madam Clerk.
Yes. Mr. Baker from the Blue Water Wood Alliance has not joined us quite yet, Mr. Warden, for 10 o'clock. So I'm wondering with Council's indulgence, we could move to the consent.
Why don't we then? So we're turning to item number 5 on the agenda, the determination of items requiring separate discussion. So you all have the consent list in front of you. Does anything need to be pulled? I see no one. So actually the consent agenda, I should say, moved by Councillor O'Leary and seconded by Councillor Mackey. And I don't see any hands. So with that said, perhaps I will simply call the question. Is there anyone opposed to approval of that consent agenda? And I see no hands, so I'm going to say that that is indeed carried. Okay, we could go to the first item, Madam Clerk, if that's appropriate.
I think that will dovetail nicely into Mr. Baker's presentation as well. So.
Okay, very good. So let me just scroll all the way down here. So item 7A. Item 7A is the work plan priorities update. Steve, I believe that you are on deck. It's been moved by Councillor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Robinson. Steve, you have the floor.
Thank you, Warden. Savannah, did you want to do an introduction?
Sure. Sounds Good. We promise we'll be quick this morning, but there's been a lot happening in the first quarter, even though we're not even through the first quarter, and wanted to make sure that council was aware of some of the big projects. And this is also part of our commitment, as we talked to you about in December with our economic development working group, so that we can circulate every quarter to your municipalities an update about where work plan status is at. So it has gone out to all of our municipalities now that this report is here with council. And Steve's going to start with investment, and then I will pick up with the other two pillars.
Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, council. As you can see from the report, we're working on a number of projects. The regional Wiarton Airport project, which will be coming to the report, will be done shortly, and we'll have some recommendations from there. And then the Talisman property project that we're working with Great Highlands on. But it's leading to an overall investment strategy. We got funding from CECI, which is a federal department. And one of the reasons we went for this funding was they fund projects and help partner when you do investment attraction, but they won't fund projects until you have an overall strategy in place. So we did apply previously to fund some of the airport projects, and they said, no, you got to have a strategy in place. So we're getting the strategy done. And this should allow us, in partnership with your municipalities, if we see an opportunity for investment attraction, to try and get some 50% funding. It's focused primarily on export, but that's the funding program. We're talking and calling it investment attraction, not foreign attraction, because frankly, if the money is coming out of the GTA, it doesn't have to be foreign, we'll accept it. So it's really looking at that strategy. We also hope to incorporate some training and some investment advice on how hard you have to go after certain projects once you figure out your competitive position. And the competitive position is always changing, of course. I can tell you, I was on a call across Canada and with some reps across in the United States, urban and rural, and it's the same issues. It's labor pool, housing market, no available land, and it's a real challenge right across the board. But I do think we have some opportunities up here. In particular, it looks like Toronto is running out of industrial land, and the price of industrial land is becoming very, very expensive. So that's something for us to consider, as well as the agri-food side, particularly heavy water users and those municipalities that are close to Georgian Bay. That gives you a bit of an opportunity. But part of the strategy is to identify all those opportunities. And of course, residential development is also an important element, and many of us are experiencing that. So it's important to keep working on that. And a new area and a new category that I think is becoming very clear with COVID are those that can work from home. And of course, Owen Sound and their campaign have really capitalized on that, but that's really something we all can capitalize on. So hopefully the strategy will guide us, and we'll be working with your representatives to figure out exactly what the niche is for everybody. So thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And the attraction retention side of things, we're seeing a lot of movement happening around there too. So you just heard from Jacinda off of a very successful first virtual job fair, and real thanks to Communitech and FedDev, because we would not have been able to do that without them. They were the key sponsors, and then all of the partners, as Jacinda said, YMCA, they have been with us day one, and the amount of work that went into this. I just really want to recognize what Jacinda has done over this last month, because it has been a lot, but she pulled it off with absolute finesse and just a wonderful job. We're also currently working in partnership with Welcoming Communities, Grey Bruce, and the Local Immigration Partnership on an international student project to look at those gaps. I know we've had a couple conversations around this table with council about inability to retain international students and trying to dig down to what the experience is really truly like when they're here. So that project is ongoing and will be wrapped up at the end of this month. So you'll get a report likely in April on that front. We're also working hard to try and address the workforce challenges, because they are not going anywhere. We had a lot of labor force challenges pre-COVID, during COVID, and we expect them to be far worse because we just don't have the people. So there are a couple different areas that we're working with and partners because we want to combine our resources as best as possible. So we're working with our own Ontario Work staff here at Grey, YMCA Employment Services, through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, and the 2 school boards, Georgian College and Fort County Labour Market Planning Board, in 3 different areas, trying to align those mutual priorities and target funding together, because we're a lot more powerful as a voice when we go in there together. The local immigration partnership work, we are just wrapping up our very first fiscal year, which is really hard to believe that it's happening already, but we will have a full settlement strategy and action plan developed by the end of this month. So we are on target to come to council next month with that update for you, so that you can see what that strategy really looks like. And it is thanks to several months of consultations and work and 52 partners that have joined the local immigration partnership. So our goal was 30 and we hit 52 within our first few months. It is just amazing to see how much interest and alignment desire there is among all of Grey and Bruce counties. So really, really pleased to see that come together. We now have a brand, we're getting all of those pieces. So you'll have a very exciting presentation from Melissa. It will be her first report to council, and that will be happening next month with that strategy for you. And then the last pillar, which is certainly taken off also, and you'll also get a report. Courtney is going to be coming to see you next month for council to talk about what did the last year look like for the Business Enterprise Centre and what is entrepreneurship looking like, because this has been the busiest year we have ever recorded through Business Enterprise Centre. So the consultations and the interest in business and starting business, and especially in bricks and mortar downtown, is really starting to grow. And it's such a good thing to see. So we wanted to make sure that you had that opportunity to hear direct from her, and right when she's getting ready to launch the Starter Company Plus program and the Summer Company programs, because all of that will take off starting in the spring. So some really, really good updates around that. And also an excellent partnership with Catapult Grey Bruce. So we have been working with this group. It's the local accelerator, so that we no longer have to send people to the G or to the urban centers outside of our area. And we started with a mentorship program because we realized in consultation with businesses that that's really what they were looking for. And in terms of scaling services, not scaling their businesses to what they had hoped, scaling it back to where they were, because COVID really had an impact. So we were able to, through this pilot fund, establish 15 mentorship matches. And that was when we wrote this report a couple of weeks ago. We're now at 20. And we should have funding to be able to do another cohort later this year, which is really exciting news. So the pilot to date is going extremely well. We're hearing wonderful things back from both the mentors and the mentees, because they're getting that advice and that direction they really, really need, so that they're not wasting time and they're not spinning their wheels. They're actually able to talk to somebody who's been through it before. That led to the creation of a Grey Bruce entrepreneur ecosystem, so that we can pull all of the partners together, just like we do through our economic development working group. We can do the same thing with any of the players in the entrepreneurship field and sector. So that way, again, we're sharing resources, sharing those best practices, and we're just not wasting the time. So despite lockdown, despite COVID, the interest in entrepreneurship is certainly not going anywhere. It absolutely aligns with what Steve is seeing on the investment side. So things have been very, very busy in economic development and tourism. And I'm just really, really proud of what our team's been able to accomplish in such a short time in the new year, and seeing what we have ahead. So we have included at the end of this report a tracker for our work plan, so that you can see what are we up to, who's doing what. Because if it wasn't for all of the staff in our departments, we certainly wouldn't be where we are this moment. And I just wanted to take that opportunity to reinforce and to direct you to that link if you haven't taken a look at it. And that will be updated every quarter and shared with you and your municipalities, so that everybody's on the same page. So that's our update, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Very good. Thank you very much, Savannah. Council, are there any questions? I do not see any. I do have one question. Savannah, for that international student pilot, obviously that group will be reaching out to the international students that are here currently, but will their work involve reaching out to students, I say abroad, but meaning in some of the bigger centers, and perhaps even internationally?
At this time, it is very much focused on the experience here in Owen Sound, because that's where we need to figure out what's working and what's not, and what sources do we have available here, and where are those gaps. So we do have work happening with Georgian international student coordinators overall in Barrie as well. So they are tied in and will be able to provide that information, but we're not reaching directly out. Our focus has been very much at the localized level here in Owen Sound. But I'm quite certain that they will get that information through the consultations that are going on.
Well, certainly I know that Georgian College is at the table, so they have a lot of experience with international students, so I'm sure that they will bring in some of that input, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, are there any other questions? I do not see any, so if that's the case, then maybe it's time to call the question. Anyone opposed to the receipt of this report? Seeing none, that is carried indeed. Madam Clerk, how are we doing now?
Mr. Baker has joined us, Mr. Warden, so whenever you're ready.
Okay. So let's go up to the top here. Mr. Baker, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you for joining us. I can remember back when this thing got started, if I remember properly, our town of Hanover's mayor at the time, or maybe he was deputy mayor, I just can't remember now. And he was a member of that task force, wasn't he?
Yeah, and certainly come a long way. And I'm very pleased to be here to talk about what we've been up to. And thank you, Savannah, for the invitation. So do you want me to just kick into it, or?
Yes, go right to it. I was very excited. I saw your slides, so I don't know if you want to share.
Well, I got a bit of a surprise for you all. I do have the slide deck, but I'm going to start with a video, I think, because and it kind of capsulizes most of the slide deck, and then I can flip back to the slide deck. But what's happening? I'm going to give you a sneak peek. The Blue Water Wood Alliance, as some of the councillors and guests may or may not know, it started informally in around 2010, became formally a cluster organization, not-for-profit industry cluster in 2011. Now, what's happened though, it's evolved into something bigger, and we are launching a new brand and a new logo and a new identity within 2 weeks. So I figured that I might as well show you this video launch, so that it's about 3.5 minutes. And it kind of takes you through the history and to where we are now and why we're doing it. And then I can also come back to the slide deck if it's okay if I share my screen.
Okay.
Okay.
When you share, Mike, just make sure that you select the share with audio button at the bottom of the share dialog there. It's just a little checkbox you'll have to click.
Okay. Sorry, just trying to find the right. Okay. Okay, so when I go to share my screen, here we go. Got it. I've done so many Zoom meetings now. I'd be ashamed if I can't perform now. So basically, what we've got. Whoops, sorry. Is a video that is our brand launch video, and so it takes you from the beginning. And share audio. I'll just get back down to that. Okay, live. Okay, so I'll just start this and tell me, raise your hand if you can't. I'm assuming everybody can hear me, so.
I can hear you.
In 2009,
can you hear that?
7 wood manufacturing companies were experiencing common challenges with the recession, offshore competition, increased costs. They decided that they needed to get together to identify areas where they had common needs, they could share best practices and resources. So as a group, they could all improve. They started getting together here at the Walker to Clean Water Center in 2010, where they had meetings with some of their suppliers, sharing the latest technologies and best practices in their industry. Very quickly, this group began to grow, and all of a sudden there was 25 companies. Then there was 80 companies. They realized they had the making of an industry cluster. They reached out to Europe, where industry clusters are very common. A cluster is a group of companies in one industry, in one region, combined with their suppliers, academia, and government partners, where they work together to do activities to help the whole industry improve to be able to be globally competitive.
I'm Chris Martin, President and owner of Horizon Coatings and the chair of the Wood Manufacturing Cluster of Ontario. I joined Blue Water Wood Alliance in 2014. What I like about the cluster was a chance to tap into the knowledge and experience of other companies like myself.
The activities of the group increased from just quarterly events to training and export projects. Now we're at 120 companies, and we've expanded the cluster to include all of Southwestern Ontario.
I'm proud that our organization has met with such success. When we have our networking sessions, the question goes around, how busy are you? Everyone is busy. We're at full employment. We're looking for new opportunities, and it's very exciting to see our members thriving. And that makes me the proud.
Strength in numbers. That means that with a critical mass, collectively, we can gather the synergies and collaboration between one company and the next with a larger group to make it better for everybody. Today, the cluster has 120 company members. At the beginning, we were in the Blue Water region. We had 7 companies, then 25 companies. All of a sudden, companies from all over Ontario wanted to join. When you look at our cluster map of our region, where all of our companies are, you realize we're no longer the Blue Water Wood Alliance. We're the Wood Manufacturing Cluster of Ontario.
The idea was first brought to the board to rebrand. It was received universally very well, because I think we'd all, as board members, realized that we had grown from what we were to what we are now. It was a very engaging process, and we really enjoyed going through it because it asked some questions about who we are and what we wanted to be. I was really pleased as the chair how engaged our board members were.
Being a member of the Wood Manufacturing Cluster of Ontario now gives us an identity that's bigger than it was at the beginning. We represent the largest concentration of value-added wood manufacturing in Canada. We have $5.2 billion in revenue just in Southwestern Ontario alone, 6.3 in all of Ontario.
Going forward, I think members can expect more members. We'll grow our membership, which will only allow us to get more shared experience and grow our own businesses through the experience of others.
Wood Manufacturing Cluster of Ontario, going forward, is going to continue to diversify the types of training, the types of events and activities, programs that we can offer companies to help them grow and thrive. So on behalf of the WMCO, the Wood Manufacturing Cluster of Ontario, thank you for 10 great years.
So that's just a clip of where we are. And it's been a journey. We've been working on our brand change since October. There was a couple of other things I'd like to share that I had in my slide deck, and then I can put it up for questions.
An easy answer for that for me is ongoing collaboration with peers in the industry and allowing me to get a face to a name.
I don't need to show you the testimonial video, but we have one of those too. Just a quick flip to my slide deck and a couple of points, and then we can have some questions. So just to clarify, and it'll all happen really fast, just to bring the local counties and communities, in March 2011, we got a bit of startup funding, and we had 5 towns and municipalities in the region kick in a bit of money to help it get started. This is before we had any staff. It was really when we were starting to have quarterly networking events. And as we go through our evolution, we started, our initial intended cluster region, as you can see the map here, and it was 1 hour distance. And now, as I said in the video, we're up to 125 companies. The types of programs that we're doing now, we've got 5 different training program categories with sales and leadership. A big one is lean manufacturing, health and safety, and now we've launched a new digital marketing program. And also plant tour Kaizen events and our networking events that we've always done. And then also we do export readiness and trade show projects. And we're launching a buying group this year, which is already underway. Just a couple of things to point out who we are now is that we do represent the highest concentration of value-added wood processing in Canada. And we are the main one for Ontario. We do have a big sector here, 6.3 billion in Ontario. And clusters really transcend and include all associations. And the segments, just to clarify, we got furniture, cabinetry, millwork, flooring, and there's quite a number of niche manufacturing products as well. Just for Grey County reference, we currently have 7 members in Grey County. We certainly could use a lot more, but just to quantify it a bit, there's about a total of the current employees. Their companies are there's 300 employees that are in our membership in Grey County, and that the total gross sales of those 7 companies adds up to about $31 million. So that's kind of quantifies our membership within Grey. We can break it down by county, but that's how it is for Grey. So we are a big value proposition to the local SMEs, and we're quite excited to have had our roots here in Grey County, and now we're provincial. So thank you again to Grey County back in the early days, and Town of Hanover too, for when we were just in an incubator, and here we are. So I guess
thank you very much for that. It is just incredible to see the growth that you've had, and I was around the table when it was just an idea, and wow, look at it now. It's just incredible. Congratulations to you. We've had all kinds of amazing news today, haven't we? Council, is there any questions that anyone has for our delegation? Well, anyways,
I'm sorry, Mr. Warden. I do see Councillor McQueen.
Councillor McQueen, please go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. And just a question to our presenter. I know we do have a number of new Mennonite communities within Grey County, and I just wondered, is that something that I know a lot of them have shops and stuff like that? Is that something that you've entertained, or is that something that's came up in discussion in the sense if you're looking at a mass or even a source of different products? And I know quite a few of them have wood shops, and I don't know if that falls down into that smaller size or not, but I just wondered if you had any comments there.
Yeah, when we first launched, we had a few, actually currently today, we have quite a few Mennonite, New Order Mennonite members. The Old Order Mennonite communities are a little resistant to get involved with the bigger networks, and we do have one member, I believe, that has 3 or 4 different small Mennonite operations supplying them to make their product. So they are within the supply chain, but as of members themselves, they're culturally they're not into getting out and going to events and networking and talking and sharing. They're fairly like to keep to themselves. So they do have a part to play, though. They are an important part of the supply chain to the manufacturers that we have, to many of them. So that kind of describes that.
Thank you for that. That's good to know.
No problem.
Thank you. And Kim, I do see your hand, but Mike, I wonder if I might ask you, you kind of just glossed over the term value-added wood products. Do you mind explaining a little bit more about what that term means?
Well, it is a red herring, and it reflects the bias that exists within government towards our resource economy. Here in Canada, as our economy started, we mined things, we cut trees and sold them. We didn't do enough value added further processing. And unfortunately, within our industry, the primary forestry industry really gets all the attention and really gets most of the funding and the help. Really, we're the poor little brother. And ironically, we create more jobs. As you know, manufacturing is a multiplier within any economy. And so value added basically means you're adding value to it. You're changing the form of it. So a value added wood processor would be anybody who takes a piece of wood and does something to it, adding value to it, meaning you're adding labor and you're changing it. You're adding some cost to it, and then you're selling it for more money. That's value added.
Excellent. Thank you. Madam CAO, you're next. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Mike, first of all, I just want to offer my congratulations to you on the success of the organization. It's no mean feat to bring together these disparate organizations, and the support that you provide to them, I think, really is invaluable to their ongoing ability to grow and be resilient in the face of a lot of different challenges. I wondered whether you could comment at all about the current circumstances. I'm hearing some issues with regard to the supply chain and whether or not there's product available. Can you speak to that a little bit? What are your companies feeling and seeing right now? And is there anything that could or should be done to address that?
Well, it is spotty in places. I mean, because our members now are distributed all over Ontario, there are some companies having no problem getting material. There's some others that are having a really hard time getting it. And the thing about this pandemic is that people are spending more money on getting their kitchens done, renovating their homes, buying furniture, all the things that that might have been put on the back burner because they're not traveling. They're spending their money in this particular sector, and our members are extremely busy, busier than they've ever been. And so I think that the issue is really with the importing of lumber across, getting the logistics, getting it across the border, and there's also a lack of, I believe, labor with the domestic supply. It's just not having enough people. They need to get the product manufactured or pre-manufactured for our members. So it's a really mixed bag of logistics and also labor. So. There are some companies that have longer lead times because of the supply chain issues. And that's just the nature of the beast right now. And really, we need to be, the mills need to be doing more harvesting and more pre-processing and getting it to market quicker than they are. And our importing logistics do create a lot of snags. So those are the two things. And then the demand is really high. So it's a perfect storm for that. But in some, it's not everywhere though. I would say probably half of our companies are probably experiencing that pressure. The other half, they're not. So could have to do with their product category, the segment that they're in, those kinds of things.
Thank you for that. Follow one more, if I may.
Absolutely.
One other question I had to do with the manufacturing processes and waste. As the input material becomes more expensive or harder to find, are you finding that your members are looking to be more innovative in ensuring that every little speck gets used up?
Well, the adoption of technology to optimize yield is very high on the priority list, and any company that's not embracing that as a best practice is going to feel the pain from that. So it's one of those must-dos. If you're going to be in the game, that has to be part of your business plan. So absolutely, and there's a lot of technology now that's available that people are embracing to decrease waste, maximize yields, both from sheet stock, which is your particle board sheets that cupboards are made out of, and also your raw lumber. Mike Vokes at Vokes Furniture here in town, he just purchased a really cool new optimization saw. I advise any of you guys to give him a call, ask him to see his shop. He is an amazing example of how you can take a commodity that's really become globalized furniture. I mean, all the imports. Here's something that's made not only from solid wood, but it's made locally. And he's made some significant investments on that front. So he'd be a good thing for a good place for everybody to see.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Mackey, you're next.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Through you, thanks, Mike, for your presentation, and congratulations on your growth. When you're talking about your supply chain, Grey County has a lot of natural resources, not a lot of natural wood resources, and we have a lot of local sawmills. Can you just comment on how the Grey County sawmills fit into your supply chain, please?
Yeah, we've got two or three of the mills that are what we call associate members. So we have two membership tiers. We have their manufacturing members, that is our core, and then we have our supply chain, what we call associate member tier as well. And we've got a couple of them on that are members, participating members. I think the challenge for some of the mills is that they don't have kiln capacity. So there are a number of the manufacturers, they want to purchase kiln dried wood because it needs to be down to a certain percentage of moisture before they can manufacture it. There are some that have their own kiln capacity, such as Durham Furniture, and in fact, they contract out some of their kiln capacity. But I believe if there was some way that some of the other mills locally had their own kiln capacity, that would be a good investment because it would open the door. There's very few companies that can process manufacture green lumber.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands. So with that said, Mike, I'm going to thank you very much. Oh, did I see somebody wait there? No, I'm flipping screens here. Mike, I want to thank you very much for that presentation. I think that historically, there's quite a story to be told about the history of Grey County and the role that wood has played in that history. I certainly know it very well coming from Hanover.
Oh, great.
So once again, thank you, Mike. That was excellent.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Madam Clerk, I turn to you. We're supposed to have the other presentation at 10:45. I might suggest that we've been an hour, that we take a bit of a break, perhaps come back at 20 minutes before 11, so 10:40. Would that be okay? Not if I think that's all right, good. So we're going to take a break and we'll be back at 10:40.
Okay. Mics and cameras off.
Thank you. I see Mr. Fleming. I don't see Rebecca Webb yet.
Yes, she's here as well, Mr. Warden.
Is she? Okay. Maybe she's on my second screen. There she is. Hi, Rebecca. All right, it is 10:40. I think we still have a few missing, don't we? We certainly have quorum. Maybe we'll just give it one more minute. Don't worry, folks, it's apple juice. In case you're wondering.
Cider is apple juice, isn't it?
Yes.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Okay, why don't we, Rob, how are we doing? Can we get started again?
Yep, ready when you're ready to go, Mr. Warden.
And Rogers is good to go as well?
Yes, I think they're just picking up as we go. So just as you want to carry on.
Excellent, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Nice little break. We have with us now Anthony Fleming and Rebecca Webb from MPAC, and they're going to give us a municipal partnership report.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you perfectly, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Reeve. I just don't know if the slide presentation, I know we have somebody launching that. And okay, we're just getting that up and running. Oh, and I can see myself and life is good. Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for taking the time to allow MPAC to provide you with an update. I want to thank you, Your Worship, members of council, as well as the staff and the citizens that are joining us here today. I'd like to introduce Rebecca Webb. I think she's on camera somewhere through this virtual meeting. Rebecca Webb is our regional manager for Grey and Bruce counties, as well as Victoria Anderlich. She is running the PowerPoint presentation for us today, as well as taking notes, and anything that we can address today, we will follow up later. Next slide, please. So a little bit about MPAC. The Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, MPAC, is an independent, non-for-profit corporation funded by the municipalities, Ontario municipalities, and accountable to the province, municipalities, and property owners. Our role is to value and classify properties in Ontario in compliance with the Assessment Act and regulations set out by the Government of Ontario. Next slide, please. Just going to minimize this here so I can see the screen. There we go. Sorry about that. So the Municipal Partnership Report, we have sent out the Municipal Partnership Report to all members of council, and I hope that you've had the opportunity to review it. I will give a high-level overview of the Municipal Partnership Report, but I thought it was important too, as well as to provide you with some other updates as it relates to the County of Grey. So the Municipal Partnership Report responded to the postponement of the assessment update and shifted our priorities to meet the needs of the municipalities. We did find new ways to access information. We needed to capture 37.3 billion in new assessment across the province of Ontario. We stayed connected with the municipalities virtually, and are transforming ways to share data with municipalities as we move forward. And we have found that as we move forward through this pandemic, and I was just talking today that it's really hard to believe that this is year one of the global pandemic that we've gone through. And we've learned a lot and stumbled a bit, but I think we've found new ways that we can work with our municipal partners. So I just educate you, if you haven't read the report, it is a link there into the PowerPoint that you can click on that and view that partnership report. and it is on our website. So if the general public wanted to review that too as well, you can click on impact.ca in the partnership report. So shifting, next slide, please. So when COVID hit last March, our number one priority was to support our municipal partners. During the first few weeks, we engaged with the municipal liaison group and municipalities to learn about the challenges and priorities and your timelines. And this is what we heard at the start of the pandemic. You needed MPAC to keep going as business as usual with minimal interruptions to our services. You wanted us to continue capturing new assessment and support the municipal tax base, adjust our timelines to allow more processing and flexibility, and offer a deferral of a municipal levy payment. And through the collaboration of our municipal partners, we did achieve all of this plus some. Next slide, please. So working differently to serve you better, we built a safe way for municipalities to access our digital building plans. We built a safe way for municipalities to access to digital building plans and share them electronically with MPAC. We launched a curbside pickup, which allowed us to go to the municipality. If the plans were too big to digitize for us, we would go out and do a curbside pickup. They would drop them into our trunk, and then off we go, do our work, and then return the plans. And following all provincial protocols to keep everybody safe, wearing our PPEs and so forth. So it's really nice to hear that Gray is in the green and prevent level. So we are out in the municipalities in Gray County picking up new assessment as we speak today. One day we hope we don't need curbside pickup anymore, but some of the innovations we have done with the curbside pickup and with digital sharing plans, digital sharing plans, this is some stuff that we've learned, and I think moving forward, we will continue to use some of these things that we have found during this pandemic over the last year. We've also investing into some digital imagery. So this allowed from multiple sources and allows us to look at any renovations that are gone on to a property, as well as validate information on remote areas. So we're looking at that now too as well. Next slide, please. So capturing 37.3 billion in new assessment. So even with the pandemic, we were still able to achieve this assessment and for the municipalities. So of that 37.3 billion, 1.5 billion was attributed to residential properties of new construction additions or alterations. Residential condominium sector continued to grow at a rate of 13.3 billion. And we added commercial sector in excess of 2.5 billion, and followed closely by the industrial sector with $1.7 billion. And farm properties came in slightly more than $850 million. So we're still going out there, we're still doing our work, and we're still continuing to do that. So property assessment update, as far as what we know today, this is what we know. Property values are still being based on January 1st, 2016, which is our current valuation date. So what that means is that if there's a new property, a new building, or new assessment that's going to be added onto a property, we will value it as of that date in time. So property values continue to be still based on that 2016 date, which is the last valuation date we had prior to the pandemic. So for now, each time we make a change to the assessment, it is based on that valuation date, as I stated earlier. And thus, everybody is taxed fairly. Next slide, please. So the next province-wide assessment update. So this is a question that we get constantly at Impact, and I can give you some information here, but we don't know yet when the province-wide assessment update will be or what the valuation date will be. We'll share that information as the government gives us direction, and we're hoping to share more information once the provincial government tables its budget at the end of this month. In the meantime, we continue to keep our data current, working closely with municipalities and property owners to capture any changes. We review building permits, plans, conduct inspections where it is safe to do so, and respond to inquiries from property owners who feel that their assessed value is inaccurate, and making any updates that require from these conversations with our citizens. And we are also constantly monitoring the real estate market and its activity. We're analyzing sales still, financial information, including rents, financial statements, as well as operating expenses and other market data to ensure that our records are up to date. We are also engaging with our municipal, industry, and government partners to actually help us out. Next slide, please. So we reflect changes to properties when we mail property assessment notices every year. So it may be a little bit confusing to some of the citizens that said, oh, you know, MPAC did not give us new assessments this year, but we do give new assessments every year. So anytime there's a new building permit, any kind of change, we still send property assessment notices out. And these assessment notices, really what we're doing is we're capturing and updating our information, capturing new assessment and sales analysis, completing any tax applications, and managing our request for reconsideration and appeal. So we're still doing our work and we're still moving forward. So, you know, that being said, if you can go to the next slide, please. I just put this slide in for you, just for your information, but basically what it does, it takes you through the process, and people our citizens that are on the line with us today, you know, what you can do, it's really a simple 4-step process if you do not agree with your current assessed value based on the valuation date of January 1st, 2016. So question is to ask yourself, could I have sold my property on that date? And if you say yes, then really just file your assessment notice and then keep it for safekeeping. If not, then please visit aboutmyproperty.ca, and then you can review all the information we have on file and just ensure that it's correct. So if you find that it's not correct, and maybe we have the acreage wrong on a farm, or for example, you have, you know, some people say, well, I only have 3 bedrooms, or you got me down as 4, please let us know and we can make those changes for you. And then review similar assessed property values in your neighborhood. So you have the ability through About My Property, not only to look at your property, but to view other properties. So that if you wanted to say, okay, my neighbor's property is similar to this, so you can click on that property and see the information on that. And then lastly, if you still disagree that you feel that your property is not assessed correctly, you can file a request for reconsideration. And you can do that in 2 ways. One is you can print our document online, or you can do it right from aboutmyproperty.ca. And then what we can do with that is we can capture the information that you looked at these properties, your comparables, bundle it all up in that report, send it to us, and then we can respond to you. So just a way that you can resolve your assessment concerns with the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. And then the next slide will just demonstrate a little bit about my property. So again, I talked about it earlier, is that you can view your information, get the detailed information on your assessment. There is methodology guides up there, market valuation reports, property specific information to your property. So if you wanted to find out how is a farm assessed, then what you can do is you can go there to About My Property or impact.ca and pull down a methodology guide just to see how we actually assess the properties. And what this screenshot here shows you is just what the program looks like, and would show you your property as well as a neighborhood. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you this information here, and it's nice to have this, and some of our municipal offices actually have this close at hand, just to show you the process and what goes through. You know, you review your property. If you agree, no action is required. If you disagree with impact assessment, you can complete the RFR, request for reconsideration, and your deadline for that is on the property assessment notice. MPAC will review the request for reconsideration. We may reach out to you for more information. Then MPAC will make a decision and mail you a letter with results. And if you agree with that, no action is required. And if not, then if you still disagree with your assessment, you can take it to the assessment review board. And I've created a link in there too. And so once we send out that letter for you, you have 90 days to file with the assessment review board. So one of the questions, if you go to the next slide, please, one of the questions that we do get asked quite a bit is responding to requests for reconsiderations that cite COVID-19. And property values continue to be based on the legislation valuation date as of January 1st, 2016. So any influences for COVID-19 may have on the property values was not in effect as of that date. So we still will look at any RFRs that come in, a request for reconsiderations, even though that they cite COVID-19, we still will review the RFR. We still will review the property information we have on file and assess the values, look at sales information. And so basically we will still do a review of the file, but if there's any relief sought after for COVID-19, COVID was not part of the assessment process back in January 1st, 2016. So it will not be considered at this point. If we can go to the next slide, please. So new assessments. So what I wanted to do was share a little bit of information on new assessments and really what is our role in gathering new assessments. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Victoria. So MPAC's role in the building permit process. So we know that how we leverage and how we get assessments onto the tax base, the assessment base for your taxation, is that we do that through building permits. Now we can do it through other means too as well, but building permits is our main vehicle that we can turn your building permits into true tax dollars. So the municipality, we ingest your building permit information, plans, and turn them into assessment, and municipalities tax the property owners based on those assessments. And really, the sooner MPAC can deliver the assessments, the sooner municipalities can recognize their revenue. So I must say that we have been working quite diligently over the last year with all municipal partners in the province of Ontario and finding new ways that we can get our assessment or building permit information as well as plans, so we can continue to update the assessment base for all municipalities in the province of Ontario. So this leads into my next slide here, continuing to work together during COVID-19. It has been a challenging year. We've been in the field, we've been out of the field, we've been in the field, we've been out of the field, we've been in hot zones and out of hot zones. So it's really been we've been very agile in how we can actually work with our municipal partners as well as the citizens to ensure that we are not out there, we are protecting ourselves and we're protecting the citizens. So if it is a hot area, we really don't want to be out there. We want to do our part to stop the spread of COVID-19. So to date, we have 200 municipalities participating in digital building plans. So it's an avenue where municipalities can upload their digital plans to us. And then from there, what we can do is get that information and put it into true assessment dollars, and then in turn, more taxation dollars for the municipality. And then also what we've had is 80 municipalities have taken us up on our curbside pickup program. We hope that we can eliminate the curbside pickup program as the vaccines are rolling out. But that being said, right now, it is still an opportunity for us to work with our municipal partners to get information on larger industrial properties where the municipality doesn't have the ability to scan these large documents. So that's why we initiated the curbside pickup program, one of the reasons. So we just want strong municipal relationships and finding new ways to collect our data. So we can go to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to share some numbers with you for the County of Grey from 2017 to 2020 with the new assessment. So what we can look at here is we can see 2017, 18, 2019, we had a substantial bump in the new assessment. There was a lot more building activity in Grey area, or in Grey County. I apologize for that. And then in 2020, even still with the pandemic, we were still well ahead of what we've done in the past. So we've picked up a lot of properties within 1 year of occupancy. As you can see, the quarterly forecast and what we forecasted and what we've actually picked up in the 2019 and 2020 is really substantial, and we've picked up more than we forecasted. And if we go to the next slide, please. And then I just wanted to break this down just a little bit more for you as individual municipalities. So as we can see, and it's well noted that the town of the Blue Mountains is growing exponentially, and there's a lot of activity going on there. So really that makes up about 47%. And then as we see, and we are seeing this migration, and it's really easy to turn on the TV and see people migrating to these smaller communities. So I envision that Blue Mountains will still continue to grow, but as we see Southgate, West Grey, Georgian Bluffs, the Grey Highlands, Meaford, City of Owen Sound, Chatsworth, and Hanover, we will start to see these municipalities start to get more assessment and new assessment as this pandemic, and as we see this migration of people moving larger centers, I must admit though that I have seen this myself. I live in the city of London, and our assessment bases jump exponentially, and as well as you can't even get a lot here in London because everybody's migrating from Toronto. So we're seeing this migration going everywhere. So we envision that this, or I do as well as MPAC envision that we're going to see more of this migration. And then on the other side, I just wanted to break down for you just where the lion's share of your new assessment sits. So there was $314,000 in $314 million of new assessment in 2020. And the lion's share of that is obviously residential and farm. So we have some new subdivisions, condos, and some commercial and industrial. So that makes up really the nice little pie chart and where you're seeing your growth in the new assessment. And if we go to the next slide, and I tried to keep it under 10 minutes, and if I will open up the floor to any questions you may have. We have Becky on the line too as well. Thank you so much, and we really enjoy meeting our first virtual council meeting in Grey County. This is, and I have the county Blue Mountains coming up on my next one, so this is very. And Selvin, I did have to look for a tie this morning.
We all do. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Are we going to be hearing from Rebecca as well, or is she just available to answer questions?
She's available.
I see her nodding. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're ready for questions. I already see one hand from Councillor Soever. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, I want to thank MPAC for the excellent job they're doing in our community. Anthony noted that the assessment is exceeding their growth projections, and I've done some analysis of that here, and that's partly because over the last 2 years, our assessment is equal 215%. The supplementary has been 215% of our building permit values. So that's because we're catching up from before. Between 2014 and 18, we only captured 58% of our building permits on average. So that meant that, we were falling behind, but thanks to the hard work of MPAC, we've done a huge catch up the last few years to be able to capture 215% of the value of the building permits is truly exceptional, particularly as Anthony noted, that even this year, they picked up more assessment Grey County wide than would be expected from the growth. So I want to thank MPAC for all their hard work, and I know they've been working extremely hard. In terms of working with municipalities, we have some municipalities in Grey County that, according to the data that's available on the FIR, if you do an analysis, it indicates they're picking up on a consistent basis less than 50% of the value of the building permits that are registered. Does MPAC, how can we make sure that, everybody across the county does an equally good job in picking up the assessment? Because obviously if one municipality falls behind, other ones have to pick up that slack in terms of a higher tax rate than there needs to be. So does MPAC work with municipalities to tell them, look, you're falling behind, and look into why that is?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Soever. Yes, we do work with municipalities, and especially with COVID, we've learned new ways to work with them. So if we get the building permit and we get regular updates on that permit, so for example, if there's a final occupancy as well as a final date as well as an occupancy date, that's a great trigger for us. And we have been reaching out over the last year with all municipalities in Grey and Bruce for this, and I must say that we are pretty much on par and picking up things. Not a lot of stale permits in our system right now, but there is new permitting systems that are coming out right now. So we're in a little bit of not a void by any means, but it's just as we're transitioning to these new systems, it takes a little bit of time to iron out the kinks. And I had a wonderful conversation with Gray Highlands building official yesterday, and they're really ready to open up and give us plans and so forth. So it's a great system that they're moving to. So I envision that we will be picking up more and more as we move through time.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Soever. Anyone else with questions? I do not. Oh, I see Kevin Wepler.
Thanks, Warden. I'd like to thank Impact Staff for coming today, and as well, Anthony, he presented to our Grey County Treasurers group back in mid-February. And again, the issue of building permits, and that was something that you had expressed to them, and the new technologies that are being there, and willing to work with them. So thank you for offering that to them and explaining to what was happening out there. So the question I had was, and I've asked this from you before, Anthony, but I wanted to ask in front of council. The new reassessment values, you're not hearing anything, but even is hearing any rumblings about the date that they're thinking about, and will it be phased in over 4 years, or are they going to jump right to that new assessment value, or is it going to be phased in because we've had a kind of a year pause here that it's going to be phased in just over 3, or just wondering what you're hearing on that side of things.
Great, thanks, Kevin. For myself personally, I haven't heard anything new since the last time we met, but I'll ask Becky if she has any other information for us.
So we don't have any indication as to what the provincial government is going to do. We do know that right now it was just a postponement. So if nothing occurs, then we would actually be sending out assessment notices, towards the end of this year, based on January 1st, 2019 market. And it would be phased over for the 4 years. It was just what they did when they changed last March, was just a postponement of this 1 year. So, but there has been discussions, with municipalities and other stakeholders as to what the best approach might be going forward, but we're not aware of what those discussions are or what the decision would be. We have been providing the provincial government with as much information as we can to try and help out. We have continued throughout this past year to finalize the values based on the January 1st valuation date so that we would be ready if we're asked. And we have been providing that data to the government, as well as we have been analyzing the market. So looking at how the market has changed from 26 to 19, and from 19 right through until today. And so we are continuing to analyze the local markets in your area and across the province to give us indication and to help the province understand the changes and the shifts and things like that as they make their decisions.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you very much for that. I don't see any other hands, so I will just thank you, Anthony and Rebecca, for that presentation, for taking the time to come and be with us today. A couple of things. One, I have used that My Property tool, and it is just excellent. I have to say. Yeah. So kudos on you for that. It's a really great tool. If you haven't used it before, you really should try it. It's really neat. Secondly, compliments to whoever does the pictures for your slide deck. Those are some awesome pictures. Anyways, and lastly, Anthony, compliments on the beard. Oh, I just wonder, is that pre-pandemic or post-pandemic?
It started a little bit, Reeve, but then when the pandemic hit, I just said, throw caution to the wind and let it go until I get my inoculation for my vaccine.
There you go. Well, it looks good on you, and it would be a great fundraising tool, by the way.
Yes. I just finished doing dry February, so I that was, now they're saying, well, maybe there should be another thing for your beard. So thank you so much.
All right, folks, thank you.
And thank you very so much, everybody. And have a wonderful day.
You too. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
All right, Council, I believe that we are going to turn next to item 7B. Kevin Wepler is on deck, and we are dealing with the 2020 external audit. It is moved by Councillor Patterson and seconded by Councillor O'Leary. Kevin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So yeah, this is the 2020 external audit BDO's planning report. And so I just wanted to inform council about this. The audit plan as provided by BDO is designed to highlight the 2020 audit, the process, the audit team, timeline, audit risks, materiality fees, engagement objectives, and fraud discussion in the terms of the engagement. From BDO, Tracy Smith will be the lead on this engagement, and as well, Vicki Watson will be the senior manager doing day-to-day stuff with county staff. The audit fieldwork has been planned and scheduled to commence on April 6th, and finance staff are currently busy working on year-end reconciliations and year-end working papers. They'll be a little different this year. In the past, we've created hard copy binders that we supplied to the auditors with our working papers. And last year we did a curbside drop off at their office of all those binders. This year we're trying to scan and electronically do all our working papers. So we're learning as we go with that. And from those, when they're scanned, they're placed into the BDO portal for their access. And so we're using that and trying to get our audit schedule back to where we were in previous years. So last year, a little bit later when the auditors arrived here with the pandemic and all the things that caused changes to that schedule. So the BDO plans to meet with management staff in mid-May to go over their findings and go from there. And then they plan to present their final audit report on May 27th to County Council and then provide the financial statements. And if these are approved by County Council, then we would, on the June 10th, when those minutes are passed, then those financial statements would be released then to the audit plan. And the approach and strategy hasn't changed from what's been performed in the past. The objective is still to express an audit opinion of the consolidated financial statements, present any significant findings to County Council, provide timely and constructive management letter if required, and identify any deficiencies in internal controls that they might identify through their process, and work with management towards the timely issuance of those financial statements. So, and lastly, I'd just like to mention that BDO has always wanted to ensure effective communication with council, and so provided in their plan, their contact information. So please don't hesitate if you have any questions or concerns for the auditors. That information is there, and they'd be happy for you to reach out to them if you have anything. So that's my report, and I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Sorry, thank you, Kevin. Council? Any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Warden.
I see Councillor Soever.
I think Councillor Milne had his hand up first.
You can go ahead. I didn't see Councillor Milne, but I'll go to Councillor Milne next.
Okay, very good. Yeah, my question is surrounding, you mentioned internal controls, and that is a very interesting topic. So when BDO does its review of internal controls, is it limited? My understanding that it may be limited to just financial controls and not overall process, because a lot of things that we do at the county level, like disposition of land or other things, have a defined process at the county level. And do they look at those internal controls, or to make sure the right process is followed, or are they just looking at the financial aspect?
No, they look at more than just the financial aspect of things. Just like, for example, even they will use like percentages of variances and stuff on things. So if they looked at some entries that seemed a different size or whatever, they would question that and who's authorizing those. So they would go through those tests and that. So they also have, they'll sit in with social services staff and go through the social assistance software and see how the approval of processes of payments and stuff happen in there as well, and who's authorizing those. So there's, yeah, it's just more than just financial controls of, for example, of checks, for example.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Anything else, Councillor Sullivan?
No.
Thank you. So Councillor Milne, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Kevin, how many years has BDO been our auditor?
I'd have to go back and look, but it's been a long time, Brian, or Councillor Milne, sorry.
No, that's all right.
And I have to say, in that, I find it very helpful for someone that really understands our business and our processes and stuff. It, especially with the ministry reporting, is very confusing at times and stuff. So the familiarity and be able to ask questions and dig into stuff, I think, is advantageous for them to be familiar with us. But yeah, no, we've been with them, and when we did re-engage with them here, I want to say in 2019, this was a topic of discussion, and I brought that to the attention of the council. But council was still willing to move forward again with BDO.
And certainly I meant no disrespect or no concerns with BDO's work. They do great work. I'm just, good governance would suggest that you at least go to the market every 4 or 5 years, that kind of thing. I know, I think BDO has currently a 5-year contract, I believe. Is that the extent of their term this go around?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. So, I look forward to the next time because familiarity is a bonus, but it can also be a question mark. But anyway, that's good. Thank you, Kevin. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Wepner.
All right. Kim, you're next.
I just want to, as a follow-on to that last question, Kevin, perhaps you could comment a little further in that the people that BDO sends or that we work with on the audit are not the same every year. And all of those people have a professional designation and a code of ethics that they're required to follow. But maybe, could you want to speak to that, Kevin, a little bit?
That's correct. It's constantly changing, and as well as BDO as a large firm, this stuff is also reviewed by others outside of their branch. So there is other parties and professionals looking at this as well. So we also about I want to say what do you want? Independence as well. They have to follow independence guidelines that are set out by their profession as well. And that's contained in this package as well about that. So I'm sure they're constantly looking. We've had multiple different partners on this audit file as well over the period of time, and many different employees of BDO have been on our review as well. So.
And Mr. Warden, certainly, again, I don't want to suggest that I have any concerns with the audit. BDO does great work. Kevin makes sure of that. I just raised the question from a good governance standpoint. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I do not see any other hands, Madam Clerk. I think no other hands. So with that said, perhaps it's time to call the question on the motion by Councillor Patterson and O'Leary to receive this report for information. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. So we're going to turn next to item 7C. Anne-Marie, you're on deck, and we're dealing with the additional funding social services relief fund. Phase 2. It is moved by Councillor Mackey and seconded by Councillor Hutchison. Anne-Marie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, County Council. This is just an update. We did receive an additional $120,000 into our Social Services Relief Fund for Phase 2. Back in December, the province approached us and asked if we had a capital project that would qualify under the mental health and addictions funding that they had available. We had been speaking with the Women's Center. Women's Center was renovating 2 units to, one unit into 2 single units of housing, and felt that they would certainly be able to do another one and wanted to do another one. When we did receive January 8th, notice that we had received the funds, the deadline for the renovation was March 31st, which we felt was definitely not doable. So we went back to the province and asked if they would consider extending the deadline to meet the previous funding of December 31st, and they have. So we are moving forward with the extra renovation. In saying that, in my last update that I did, we already submitted to the province for this funding under our regular funds, knowing that it would be of benefit. So these extra fundings will allow us to move the $120,000 into emergency housing, which is also greatly needed right now. And as an aside, there was an announcement yesterday about additional social services relief fund phase 3. This funding for phase 2 ends March 31st. So the funds we received will be for April to December and will allow us to work with our community partners and continue to fund some of the great work that's doing out there to protect our most vulnerable from COVID-19 and to provide the extra mental health outreach supports that are greatly needed. So very grateful. And there'll be a report coming probably early April to let you know how we're going to disseminate those funds.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. This is fantastic news. Very much needed indeed. I see Councillor Milne has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I was just going to say that, you know, when most people think of mental health, they don't think of bricks and mortar. But I commend Anne-Marie and her team for recognizing that mental health help is more than just having someone hold your hand. It's a safe place to live, and you know, all the other things that go with it. So I commend you for the work you're doing, and wish you well in this project.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? I do not see any, so I think it's time to call the question on the motion by Councillors Mackey and Hutchinson to receive this report. And I think there's an additional piece in there about using the funds in 2021. Is there anyone opposed to the motion? I do not see any, so I will say that that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Item number 8, other business. Do we have any other business? Seeing none, we'll move next to item number 9, any notices of motion. Councillor Desai.
Just as soon as you unmute yourself, Mr. Desai, we'll all be able to hear you.
Of all the people, I didn't expect Councillor Milne to let me know that I was on mute. Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to provide a notice of motion. Given that it is the 100th anniversary of the first election of a female MP to Canadian Parliament, I was going to bring forward a notice of motion at the next meeting for recognition of that fact. Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. I will send the wording to the clerk's office at the earliest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other notices of motion? Councillor Potter.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I do intend to bring my motion to the March 25th meeting, and I will make sure the clerk gets it in plenty of time to include in the agenda.
Very good, sir. I don't think you needed to give a notice of motion for that because one has already been given, but thank you for letting us know that. Anyone else? I do not see any other notices of motion. And if that is the case, then the exciting part, item number 10, an adjournment, motion for adjournment moved by Councillors Burley and seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Is anyone opposed? I'm gathering not. Then that's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Great meeting. Lots of good news, lots of things.